Good afternoon from Austin, Texas. On behalf of the NMC, I'm happy to welcome you to the NMC Beyond the Horizon, Scaling Evidence-Based Methods Across Disciplines. This topic is featured in our recent publication, Scaling Solutions to Higher Ed's Biggest Challenges, an NMC Horizon Project Strategic Brief. About the topic, current approaches to scaling effective pedagogies are too often based on anecdotal evidence, when one success story is amplified with the assumption that it can be applied in other learning contexts. Compounding this challenge is the notion that scaling is not synonymous with mere duplication, identifying ways to adapt teaching and learning practices for different learners, course levels, program types, and institutional settings requiring new approaches. Luckily, we have some folks that are working on new approaches to tackle this problem. So in this 1-hour event, we will begin with two higher ed thought leaders sharing insights on their approaches to solving this challenge. And then I will then assign you to two breakout rooms where you'll work in small groups to engage in deeper conversations about the topic, and then begin to brainstorm solutions from your side to that challenge. I'm your host today, Alex Freeman. I'm the Senior Director of Membership and Special Projects at the NMC. I'm joined by the NMC's Annie Davis and Gordon Jackson. Please feel to ask any questions via the chat if you have any problems or you encounter any technical difficulties. Okay, so now on to our first presenter and facilitator for today. I'd like to introduce Jessica Knott. She's a Learning Design Manager at Michigan State University. I'll let you take it over, Jessica.
Thanks, Alex. Let me get my screen shared here. As Alex mentioned, I am the Learning Design Manager at Michigan State University for Michigan State University Information Technology. With that, I also hold a dual leadership role in the newly formed MSU Hub for Innovation and Learning and Technology. I'm hoping you can all hear me right now. We have a little bit of weather going through, so please bear with me. Alex, I can see the poll.
Okay, let me go ahead and close that out. So a few of you are getting started. A lot of you are here to learn more, and some of you are kind of in the middle of related projects or have a lot of experience. And I think our experienced people are probably going to be our presenters today. But thank you. I'll go ahead and stop sharing that so you can get onto your presentation. Thank you.
That is no problem. Just for the screen sharing, what I found in Zoom is it tends to work a little bit better if I do it in this format. If anyone has any other views they'd like to see, just go ahead and send me a chat. So as mentioned, I'm at Michigan State University, and I have been fortunate also to do some work with Dr. Tony Houston out of University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and the data center there. When Alex asked us to do this facilitation and put together a small presentation, he asked, how are we solving the challenges where we are? And hopefully as we get into the facilitation later, we'll be able to talk about that a little bit more deeply. I'm excited to hear what you guys are doing as well. So here at MSU, the Hub for Innovation and Learning and Technology is seeking to kind of change the way we think about teaching and learning and assessment and success at a large-scale institution such as Michigan State. I've included the website here, hub.msu.edu. And what we seek to do is leverage, coordinate, and scale instruction and assessment. What that means is we're involved in a large-scale analytics project that is spanning our entire campus. We have many student success initiatives happening here at Michigan State University, and the Hub is involved in several of those. We have curriculum reinvention projects that are going on. And so, for example, the picture I've included here is a veterinary medicine design day. The College of Veterinary Medicine here at MSU is reinventing their curriculum to bring down costs for students so that when we graduate veterinarians into the field, they have less loan debt and are better able to, kind of handle the costs that are accrued by college education. And I've also included here at the bottom the MSU Achievement System. So this is one of the projects that is actually a building, one of the collaborations between the Hub, the College of Arts and Letters, and MSU Information Technology, where what MSU Achievement tries to do is pull together all of the experiences that a student might have in our Citizen Scholars program and be able to, measure that beyond the credit-bearing experience. So those are a couple things we're doing at MSU. I would like to talk more about those in our discussions if you're interested. So the second thing I mentioned was the National Research Center for Distance Education and Technological Advancements. This is headed by Dr. Todd Houston at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And as you can see, the object of the Data Research Center is to promote student access and success. So they are working on a shared research toolkit that anyone can use in the country so that educational research starts to kind of come together and use shared measurement tools. I'm just checking the chat. Alex, thank you. Alex in the chat has shared a few resources if you'd like to look a little bit more at the data center. I'm going to share the slide here so that I can talk about some of the resources. I'm doing this. There we go. All right. So the data center brought together a number of leaders in the field of research and assessment. They brought them together. They brought them together several times, but especially initially in at the EDUCA's Learning Initiative Conference to come up with this shared measurement tool. I've included links to the research toolkit that's downloadable and accessible. I've attached a link to the data framework of inquiry, and as well as contact information for Tanya Houston and the data center itself. So if you go to this website, you'll be able to see some of the partners who applied for and got funding to do some research with this toolkit and some of the things that they're starting to find. I've also included links to the Hub blog, and I think I saw him in the room, but my colleague Bill Heinrich is here. He's the Director of Assessment for the MSU Hub for Innovation and Learning Technology. And so some of these things that we're doing to scale across our campus and beyond fall under his umbrella as well. I'm coming up on my time. I will move to the chat at this time and hand it back to Alex. And I look forward to seeing you in the breakout rooms.
Great, thank you, Jessica. And now on to our second co-presenter and facilitator for today's discussion is Stephen Varela. He is the Associate Director at the University of Texas at El Paso, UTEP. Take it away, Stephen.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me too. It is a pleasure to be here this morning. I'm very excited I'll share my screen here in a second, but I'm very excited to be here. And I think you're going to see that both Jessica and I, we're kind of dealing with very similar things in terms of scaling out some wonderful projects. And one of the nice things about what NMC is doing is really kind of bringing a lot of people together to make these connections, what's working well in one institution to another. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here to give you a little overview of some of the stuff we're doing. All righty, good. So I'm just going to show you our lovely campus here because it is lovely. Right now, we haven't hit the winds or anything yet, so we're good. Just to kind of share a little bit about me really quickly, I always show her my wife and kids because, well, I'm just really happy that someone married me and had kids with me. So, as many times as I can share that with people, I'm happy to do so. My background is actually with English. I was a faculty member here at UTEP for about 12 years or so. And then during a happy hour where all good decisions are made, they convinced me to take an administrative position. So I always share the part about me being in English because people don't necessarily associate technology with us liberal arts folks, but it's very much there. Also, of course, being a researcher, some of my focus is with massive open online courses, gamification, things like that. And I'm currently the Associate Director of Academic Technologies here. We do things like graphic design, multimedia, emerging technologies, 3D, you name it. If it's cool and creative and interesting, we can build it. There's UTEP again. Just for those who don't know a little bit about our campus, we have about over 23,000 students currently. We are very different from the rest of Texas, as I mentioned to Alex earlier. We're on the U.S.-Mexico border, so it's been a very interesting time politically, as you can all imagine. So we have also a lot of international students crossing the border every day to come to our school. That's just a quick thing. Alrighty, for us, one thing I wanted to share is just in terms of scaling in general, Some of the main challenges that we face, and we can talk about in our breakout rooms, include structural challenges. One of the things we faced here at UTEP is people tend to do their own things, very much silo-based from colleges and departments, even faculty in many ways. And so we had a lot of fragmentation, when you try to do an institutional program to bring people back together. Also kind of connected to Jessica, assessment and NMC, because since everyone's kind of doing their own thing, data is all over the place and it's not integrated on campus. And that's something that people are struggling with. And then of course, sustainability. How do you keep these things going in the long run with resources and staff and funding and things like that? So I'm going to give you a quick little case study here of how we scaled something up in terms of professional development here at UTEP. The common challenges, as I mentioned, because of the fragmentation, professional development is offered by colleges, departments, human resources, some teaching and learning groups, even ourselves in terms of technology. And so people would just get kind of emails, and it'd be very not competitive, but it's problematic in the sense that with all these different offerings, no one really kind of knows where to go or who it is and things like that. And of course, with professional development, faculty and staff buy-in, why would they want to do this when research is so important and tenure and everything else like that, especially if the focus is with things like teaching and learning. Besides a follow-up survey, there was really no method for us to track long-term success in terms of professional development. People were offering workshops and different forms of stuff, and they weren't necessarily seeing how effective they were, or having tools that in the long term to see how effective they were. We also don't have a method to track attendance or for people to keep any kind of institutional record. You just had to kind of remember and maybe put it on your CV. So here's what we did very quickly. One of the nice things is our university is going through our quality enhancement plan, our strategic planning for the institution. So this provided a really good opportunity to kind of do some infrastructure changes. And one of the big ones is they created a faculty development and leadership center. So now we have a centralized office basically for professional development, and they're really serving as a connector for all that fragmentation. One of the things I've done within my group is really kind of started leading cohort-based professional development. Instead of individual workshops, more series-based and working within colleges and departments and institutional to bring groups together for communities of practice. So within the discipline, multidisciplinary, and even institutional, which has been very successful. We also are incentivizing very differently. I'm fortunate to work with a group, as I mentioned, that does graphic design, multimedia, different things like that. So we're creating a lot of the artifacts that are being used for enhancing teaching, learning, and research. So faculty have more of a motivation besides money. And we have a centralized website that's currently in development that basically is going to identify where the professional development offerings are on campus, so that everyone has a one-stop shop to get there. So if I can, I think I can quickly show you that. So this is the development site that we're building. Basically, it's becoming a centralized place for people to find out what's happening for faculty, staff, students, community. You can browse by types, this is very much a prototype still in development. You can do it by college, and this will probably develop into bigger stuff as well. Calendar, program, professional development coordinators can log in and do their postings. Individual faculty and students can go in and create profiles for themselves. And then you can basically start tagging things in terms of learning outcomes for each professional development offering as well. So that people, again, can, besides knowing what they attended, what they hopefully got out of that as well. So we can track that both individually and institutionally. There you go.
All right. Well, thanks for teeing it up for conversations that we're going to have here in a moment. So my next step here is to assign you to breakout rooms. One of you will have two. Jessica and Stephen will be assigned, and then what I'll do is place you as evenly as I can in those rooms. Okay, sorry to stop those rich discussions. I was popping in and out of each of the rooms, and I could see that there's lots to share. But now we want to get an opportunity to put any question that you'd like to get answered collectively within the group chat. So at this point, what we're going to do is not all of us got to spend time with Jessica or Steven, so we want to hear what y'all talked about in your different rooms. We have our Etherpad recorders, and I don't know if, let's see, I guess we'll start with Steven's group. Steven, do you want to kind of report out what y'all were talking about?
Sure. I think we touched on, again, some of the challenges that we're all facing in our different institutions. And one of the things that we just kind of left the discussion with that really started, touching all of us was the sustainability issue. Once we know that a certain practice or program is doing well and has the evidence to back it up that it's working well, getting the funds to complete it yearly and to keep it going is an issue for a lot of institutions and folks. It's interesting how, sometimes we all, especially our administrators, get very excited about a certain thing and put up money up front, but don't really plan for year 2 or 3 as it moves forward. Other issues that we talked about were things with faculty, how to incentivize besides money, because money seems to be one of the main tools that we use to have faculty and other staff join in on these projects and help that scaling. So we talked about different things, such as obviously the reduction of time in terms of buying out their time so they can work on these things, or finding other kinds of incentives, whether it's products or software or technologies that can be given to make things more efficient in their teaching or research or things like that. Again, so that they feel like it's a worthwhile investment besides their own intrinsic motivation to participate in some of these projects. And then, like I said, also we had very interesting samples. Claudia Lopez, one of our participants, is working in an institution in Mexico, and there should be a link there on the chat too of a framework that she at her institution have set up regarding scaling, and there are some really interesting aspects to that.
Thank you, Stephen. How about you, Jessica? What did y'all talk about in your session, in your breakout?
It's interesting that Stephen just brought up Claudia measurement, because she was in my room too. And that was one of the things that we talked about, was different ways to measure innovations across different departments or institutions even. We heard from Beth from UNLV, who is challenged with growing her enrollment by 30%, her online enrollment. And so the different ways that they're looking at how to make this scalable at the institutional level. We also heard from, going through my Etherpad here to make sure I can touch on everything. We talked a bit about how Helise was mentioning, and a lot of us were nodding, that the workshop model doesn't work anymore. So how can we have meaningful faculty development or teacher instruction experiences that aren't just the workshops that we've been used to, and can those maybe be shared or scaled nationally, or share outcomes? And if you look in the chat, Jesus just posted one way that we could get at that: universal design. So if we took a look at universal design as a way to scale and measure some of these outcomes, gosh, that's a framework that already exists, and one that is accessible, inclusive, and kind of made for it. So I love that comment. That's in this main room. And we got through most of our bullets. We spent a lot of time on talking about how do you measure innovation, and what does teaching and learning kind of look like in this new environment. So
okay, great. Well, thank you. And I want to take the last few minutes to answer any questions. Maybe you picked up something that you heard about that was in the other room you want to dive deeper into. So think about that, add that to the chat, and we'll address that. But I do see that Mike has had some audio problems, but he said you shouldn't forget to use students to help faculty produce what they want. Hire and train a cadre of students in the faculty member's discipline and let them work with the faculty member. Student funds can sometimes be easier to get than funds to pay for additional faculty. Any other thoughts or directions? We've got a few more minutes that we can spend on this topic.
I was just telling Laura that we have our call for proposals open right now. It's at novus.itism.mx.
Yeah, you could drop that in the chat. Be great.
And we can connect you if you are interested in participating in a project, and we can link you with a Mexican team. We have teams all over the country, so if we can link you to a team at either of your universities you want to distribute this, and they can relate to our teachers, and then we can come up with something that we can fund. We provide funds from $2,500 up to $12,000. So I think that would be interesting, no?
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I was interested in how engaged this conversation was. I didn't know what to expect when I came into a Zoom room to facilitate this, and it was every bit as active as it was in person in Orlando. So I really appreciated that and wanted to thank everyone for participating in that way.
Yes, thank you. This is something that we're experimenting with this year, is to make these sessions a little bit more interactive, give you a chance to meet your colleagues, to, and get involved in discussions, as virtually as we can when we have these at our different outreach events, OLC, and different places. So I hope that this provides you another perspective, some discussion, some things to stimulate your thoughts as we move to solving these. We don't have the solutions. There are exemplars of projects that are happening. So what we're trying to do with this program is to bring folks together to talk about what is happening within your context. We know you have different situations, but the only way that we're going to be able to solve these challenges is bringing our brain power together and to make these connections.
Thanks for making it possible.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thanks, Alex. And also, if I can say really quickly, we're going to steal your webinar structure too, because it's fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. It's the best form of flattery, right?
I just do what Steven does, so I'm totally doing that too.
Okay, so to wrap up today's program, I want to sincerely thank Jessica and Steven on behalf of the NMC for taking time to lead today's discussion and to facilitate the discussion. So participants, if you want more information about anything you saw or heard today, let us know by contacting me directly at alex@nmc.org. To learn about future NMC online programs and get involved with our community, please visit our website at nmc.org, like us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter at nmc.org. Save the date for our next NMC Beyond the Horizon. This is going to be a popular one because it hits on a lot of different departments. This is facilitating the discovery of learning technologies. So how do we go about doing that? We're going to have a great discussion on May 17th. It'll be May 17th at this time. With that, I want to bid you all a good afternoon or evening wherever you are. And we will hope to see you on May 17th.